We're having the lunch for the dean and everything, right?
Yeah, I put that in like last week or something.
Okay. Oh, there it's on. Although I could do something in front of my class. I started at 7.
Is that Harry Grubman?
Yeah, either a Tuesday morning.
Yeah, Tuesday is what I think kind of. Those construction meetings are actually gone on Tuesday mornings now. But we may have some ad hoc ones.
I think they took it off the calendar.
They did, but we may have a couple. I already told Ann that I can't meet at these all institute, that it's in my I'm teaching. Well, they know that. I don't know if I should go to the Climate Action Network or not. I think it's good. I care, and it'll also. And then the Israel meeting, I've got to arrange for somebody else to teach my class. Maybe I can give them-
Recording in progress.
Well, so you don't see the other things on here?
On the second,
Oh,
Testing.
no, just my class, yeah.
yeah, I just see your class.
Still haven't figured out if we should have how to get our retreat together. Oh, you know what? We're gonna have to do Alice training. Do you know where they offer that? I don't see a way around it.
I would guess public safety. But I'm not sure exactly which office. My best guess would be public safety.
I'll look for it. I looked around quite a bit to try and find something that was situational awareness. It wasn't Alice training. And I haven't been able to find anything except for, I think I already told you this, they had it for Asian faculty in New York City. But
We need it for kids.
yeah,
That doesn't help
for case,
us.
and we also don't want it to be specific to an ethnic group. But
Right.
I think that's what seems to be true is that people don't have situational awareness training because Alice training exists.
Mhm.
I know it makes both Britain and Mandy very uncomfortable,
Mhm.
but I don't know a way around it.
Right.
And we have to be professional.
Yeah, it's one of those things where it's hard to just ignore it.
Yeah. And we have to think hard here because as Manny has pointed out, we have limited points. I think it was Tiffany who said all our glass walls become a disadvantage. And Mandy pointed out that our 2 points of exit are both in the same area in the building. If you can't get to one, you might not be able to get to the other. You know, they didn't want to put the second door on the classroom on the first floor because they didn't want the possibility that somebody could come in the other door. The way we've solved that is put a programmable key swipe on it.
Yeah,
So it's only open when we want to allow it to be open.
that's smart.
Yeah.
Right, thank you.
I'm always interested to see what chair choices different people make on the conference table. Is there a place that you?
No, it doesn't matter.
Okay.
It's all good. Mark, why don't you come closer?
USA Swimming too?
No, so I'm not at the moment.
My son was USA.
Okay, very cool. Yeah, our head coach coaches a USA Swimming with Ohio Aquatics. He used to be with Ohio State Swimming Club until COVID shut that down.
And then my family sent me there.
It's like, yeah.
Why are we talking?
Oh, I coach high school swimming.
Remind me, sorry, I didn't
Where did
know.
you in districts?
We're D2, ours were last night. I was at Ohio State School from.
No.
So-
Nice time to warm up.
They're very good. They're
They're 16.
Jumpstart, George Meehan.
Okay,
Maybe it is D2. His girls are at Hawkins.
yep, they're D2. I will see them next week in camp.
But they're really
I'm going to Chicago this
Swim
weekend. so-
Okay.
Hawkins is.
I was gonna say that last name was really familiar because I've been seeing it on.
They're really good. They win individually, then they have relays.
Yeah.
Jerry Holter.
How was
Okay.
Jerry is just, I mean, he's
Oh,
coaching
yeah, I thought that
Olympics.
was good.
Yeah, yeah.
And then
Yes,
Dinah
we-
Munz.
yeah,
my
we've been
son's
emailing, we'll
here,
have
and
like a
Erica
little quick
Rose
meeting
right
one
there.
day.
Open,
So-
open water.
All
the one,
three
the
of
other one was
you-
500 meters.
No, just, yeah,
Oh.
and then I have one with.
Yeah, I
Listen.
swam here my freshman year and then I tore my rotator cuff and I was like, I was an
And
okay
then-
swimmer. And then I tore my rotator cuff and I was like, not that great.
Yeah, my son
He like specifically said.
started on the swim club.
Okay, so-
I know one thing about
Yeah.
him, he's very
And
good
then
at talking.
it was just too much work.
Okay.
And
I was like, well, I
Doesn't
don't-
surprise me.
there was some powerful, and there was actually a young lady from Canada that somehow.
Conversation.
She was potentially
You gonna walk us through?
Olympic.
Yeah, I'm gonna have Regina, one of our students that's been involved. I
Me too.
moderate.
Did you put in your?
So I think a bit of, I mean, it's just, I think obviously a little bit of kind of three very
You're gonna be
unique
Oh, that's right.
approaches. I've got to say she's on the way. She
Yes.
couldn't find parking.
Oh,
She is on her way.
Oh, there's parking on
there was a company I looked at.
Something like this. Any OSD up to 30 entries.
Oh, that's right, okay.
5 were.
Out of the air. Like you.
Yeah,
I know about it.
Mainly
Oh, I don't,
grass.
I don't. I
Okay.
don't-
2
Oh, they're
that are on the
super
7th.
cool.
Yeah.
Which ones?
No, and I.
2 are in the
Yeah,
finals.
just like.
Mortality blood or something that he,
I like
to
them
take
a
your
lot.
stem
Yeah.
cells.
Amos,
and
how's it
preserve it.
going?
And the other one was,
I like the shirt.
Hello.
Thank you.
MStat.
Have you two?
Oh,
met?
right,
Yeah,
He
but
was
they're not
emailing
the
as
teeth
well.
one.
Right,
You're
yeah,
right.
right.
Yeah.
Okay. nice.
And Megan, you'll tell us when we're
Yeah.
on LinkedIn.
So just.
Yeah, please.
Tim, good to see you.
Good to see everybody.
I
Megan.
heard you're coming to.
You're on mute,
class
Megan.
on Next Thursday.
Are you in that
Oh, sorry, I was talking to my kid.
I'll be sure to roast you.
Hello, hello.
We're not on LinkedIn yet, right?
No, but I'm ready to hit the button whenever you
That's
are.
right. Gene, just give us another minute. Regina's
Yeah.
there.
Coming in from Palo Alto, he's hysterical.
Oh,
You guys
okay.
will like him, he's very.
Oh, is
I always
Dubo's
like
coming
when
in?
you-
person?
Dubo's gonna be
Okay, gotcha.
physically here,
Okay.
yeah. So,
Glad to hear that.
That'll be
yeah,
fun.
he's gonna come through town and do it. So I think we did it last year in person too. So first time we were allowed to do it.
See when you get here.
Kevin,
Anybody in that class,
Great.
be entertained.
funny, like, I would say,
Glad to hear it.
because Kevin is
Yeah,
pretty
I'll
religious
try to be
about
as
going
interactive
off
as
video.
There you go. Well, no one ever asked any questions in that class.
I haven't seen, I've barely
Actually,
seen.
this year, we have, it's a pretty
This is
good.
one of Mark's partners.
pretty good.
Oh, okay.
She was
Like
like
pulling
nine.
teeth. Also,
This year.
That's
it's
it.
like-
There's a-
Okay,
Runs
next
with my
question,
brother.
no more.
Oh, yeah. Oh, actually,
He's
last
so-
year was
is-
okay.
Reaches more places than people think.
It's much more fun if it's interactive.
I agree.
Just us droning on about stuff isn't any fun.
Have you met with On Bodie?
I don't think so.
Masters.
Okay,
Finance
he's
student.
another
I think he is. He's in the class.
5 case related at any OSD.
Yeah.
That is, and I got 4 in the finals.
Oh,
Semifinals.
You can't get into, stop asking questions.
I went to an event, a weather
Very
event coaching
forward
thing
about
last
Yeah.
week.
Looks you
Which
right
was
in the
awesome
eyes.
because
Sounds-
we got
Here's the
coached.
problem. Oh, that'll be.
It's a case back.
No,
No,
Regina's on the way.
Chris is really, yeah, you're gonna like.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he's masters.
Why don't we just go, I mean, Megan, why don't we just do quickly so that some of you guys met, Mark and Mandy, but while we're waiting to warm up.
you want me to start?
Do it again, yeah, I mean, you met everybody, yeah.
Okay, so I think I know everyone here a little, but I'm Megan. I just graduated from Case Chemical Engineering. And I will start working at P&G in Cincinnati in mid-March. And until then, I have been working with Michael to further develop the Alumni Fund.
I'm Jack. I also recently graduated from Case, but I'm still going to Case because I can't escape. It's a good thing. I'm a master's of accounting student here, and I've also been working with Michael and Megan on building up this alumni fund. And I'm excited to keep working on it.
I'm Evelyn. This is my second year here. I'm a biomedical engineering student, and I just recently got introduced to the Alumni Venture Fund. I'm really excited to learn more.
I'm Tim Mallott, I'm Chief Investment Officer here for the university, and I'm some small cog in the alumni network.
I'm Amos Langsdor. I'm a sophomore, majoring in mechanical and aerospace engineering, minoring in entrepreneurial studies. And I'm the chapter manager for CASE's the OSVF Club, Northeast Ohio Student Venture Fund. Yeah.
Bob Stopko, Case Western Reserve University LaunchNet, which we help students and alumni with their ideas. I'm also an entrepreneur in residence, excuse me, at Jumpstart and YBI.
Great.
Young Time Business Incubator.
All right, no intros yet from our panel, but Megan, are we good to go?
I will hit the button now and then give you a thumbs up when it's live.
Great.
Want me to close this?
Yeah, that'd be great, thanks. This is actually it's the Northeast Ohio Student Venture Fund is part of, it's funded by Berkeley Morgan. It's like there's 6 universities.
Yeah, 6 universities are making the decisions. It's open to the entire community, of which they could be a student idea.
All right, we'll get started. So welcome everyone to the Case Western Reserve University Entrepreneurship Speaker Series. This is a unique one for me today because we've probably done about 200 of these events. My name is Michael Goldberg, and I'm our executive director of the Veale Institute. We've done like 200 events. I've never been on a panel. I usually just like introduce our awesome student moderator and then I just get to hang out and watch. So I actually have to work today, which is, less fun than watching.
He gets the hard questions.
Exactly. I'm thrilled. Today is going to be a lot of fun. We have a really good group of folks in the room here at ThinkBox, including Mandy, who drove up from Ohio State, and Mark, who is in town but drove over. A number of students are here, some colleagues from CASE. I'm going to pass it over to Regina, who's going to moderate, who will introduce herself and get things going. We've got a number of folks on Zoom. We'll sort of be moderating the Zoom chat, and for those of you watching on LinkedIn Live, you can put your questions in the comment, and Megan and I will sort of be checking, and we'll feed them to Regina. So with that, Regina, let me turn it over to you. Thank you for moderating.
Sounds good. Thank you, Michael. Hi, everyone. Thank you for being here today. My name is Regina. I am a 4th-year student here at Case Western Reserve University. I am studying international business and international studies, and I've been involved with a variety of entrepreneurship related things here on campus, including the Northeast Ohio Student Venture Fund, and most recently the Alumni Fund. So I want to thank our panelists so much for being here today. As Michael said, pop your questions in the chat. If you're in the room, I'll be keeping an eye out. So just if you have anything, please raise your hand. And yeah, I'll pass it over to our panelists. If you could please introduce yourselves and then briefly give us an overview of your fund.
Here we go.
Yeah.
Mark Richey. I am a general partner of 1809 Capital, which leverages the Miami University Alumni Network. I've been on the investing side of the table for half my career now. Prior to that, I was an operator, coder, computer science grad, was in a series of companies in the Bay Area and started my own software company. And when that exited, I joined Draper Triangle, which is Pittsburgh based, but I was the Ohio partner based in Cincinnati, and then started my own platform called West Capital, which centered around corporate innovation, but we also then had a fund that co-invested with our corporate clients. And that all led into, being part of the team that launched 1809 Capital, which our model is a little bit, it's not student startup centric, it's not tech transfer centric, it's a Series A plus, so kind of starts to veer over into growth stage. And we leverage the Miami Alumni Network, all the limited partners in the fund, and it is a classically structured venture fund, that has LPs and general partners. All the limited partners, the investors in the fund are Miami, accredited investor Miami alumni. That number about over 50 now, and And then we source deals, of course, companies that have a Miami alum in their management team, that would be something we, entity we'd look at, but primarily we've networked with about 26 venture funds around the country that have Miami alumni in their general partnership teams. And for us, that really opens the funnel pretty wide because, if they have a Miami alum in their partnership team, then we can invest in any of their portfolio companies. So the company doesn't have to have a Miami connection, just the investor does. So, and to date, we've done 6 investments. We're diligent on a 7th, and of those 6, so this 7th one does have a Miami alum in the GP team, but there's also a VC as well connection. And the other 6 are all sourced to a venture fund. We have one of our limited partners is on the team as well. So, so that's what we're doing. And then on the, so this is a for-profit fund. On the, the thing that's unique, one unique aspect to it is that for those that understand fund economics, the general partners, if they do a good job, they earn something called carried interest, which is a profits interest. We contribute 60% of that at a minimum to the Miami University endowment. So that doesn't impact the LPs, but there is that economic tie to the university.
Well, I will jump in. So I'm Mandy Mallott. I'm the director of the Ohio State Early Investor Network, which is a different way to interact with alumni in the venture capital field. So I'm actually a Case Western alum. I graduated here in 2007 with a degree in English and political science. So if you ever want to wonder how to go from an English degree to working in venture capital, hit me up on LinkedIn. It's possible. It included a stop in international trade. So I'm really excited to be heading up Ohio State's new program that involves their alumni, their 650,000 plus alumni in the venture capital space. If you think about how a company typically goes about seeking funding as their, pre-seed, seed, on throughout their fundraising cycle, they often think, who's my network? Who can I reach out to and make a connection with? And a lot of times that includes your university. Say, I'm going to go find other Ohio State alumni, other Case alumni that I'm going to shake down for some money. And so we're thinking about how do we formalize that and really make it easier for both the investor side as well as the entrepreneur side. So the Ohio State Early Investor Network is a network of individual accredited investors who join, they pay membership dues, and they will hear regular pitches from Ohio State, or as we like to say, Buckeye-linked companies. So on the investor side, you can be an alum, you could be a parent, you could even just be a fan of Ohio State, and you can join as accredited investor to hear these pitches. On the company side, you will need to either have an alum, a faculty or staff member, a student, or someone who was enrolled but didn't complete their degree as either your founder or within your C-suite, or you could be licensing technology from Ohio State. You think about all the great research that goes on at universities like Case, Miami, Ohio State. Well, a lot of that becomes patented and then licensed out. So we want to be able to support those companies as well. So when you have that Ohio State connection, you'll be able to approach the network. We have an investment committee that will review all the companies and decides who pitches to the network. And then as an investor, you'll hear these regular pitches and be able to raise your hand to individually invest in the companies. Now, we will help you do that. We will be forming SPVs for each deal. That way, each company has a nice big number on their cap table from an SPV rather than a bunch of small investors linked there individually. We want to support their future growth, and we thought that was a good way to do that. It also makes the investors' lives easier because they'll get their K1s from the SPV manager. And really, the idea behind this is saying Buckeyes want to support other Buckeyes. You always want to support your college. I'm still very supportive of everything that happens at Case. And so we're tapping into that and giving everybody an easier way to make that happen, to really gain funding from other Buckeyes or really support companies that, yeah, you're giving back as an Ohio State alum or Ohio State fan, but also you might make some money off of your investment as well. So it's an exciting way to open up that huge network of Ohio State fans and alums to the venture capital world.
Thank you, Michael.
Great, okay, turn my laptop back to me. And it's great to have Mark and Mandy here.
Michael, there's audio problem.
An audio problem, okay. Prentice, can you hear us? Okay. Sorry.
Yes.
Might be on your end, okay, just, we're good? Okay, I'll keep rolling. So anyway, saying one of the fun things about today's discussion is sort of three unique approaches. You know, Mark and Kevin Mendelsohn just joined from 1809 Capital, a very distinct kind of sitting outside the university, tapping into that network and contributing back upon success to Miami. Mandy and I both are university employees, but with distinctly different approaches. Mandy organizing a network, but essentially those individual investments and investment decisions are sort of being driven outside the university. We at Case Western Reserve, and we had lots of interesting and different conversations, and actually folks like Kevin and Mark and others have helped advise us along the way. Where we've landed after a lot of discussion is a philanthropic into the university, so donations into Case Western Reserve to then be invested out. So we have a team, and a number of the team members, including Regina and Megan and Jack and Evelyn and Amos, are here today. So we have students that lead our diligence efforts. We've been, I know there's some folks watching that are involved with something called the Northeast Ohio Student Venture Fund. And we were just chatting about it as we started up, which is a regional effort funded by the Burton D. Morgan Foundation, which gives students, including a chapter at Case Western Reserve, experience in venture capital. A number of the students on the table also just got back from Chicago, where they finished third in something called the Venture Capital Investment Competition. Actually, some of our early inspiration for participating in that competition came from Miami, Ohio. Our friends down in Miami have done quite well in that competition, and so they've helped us
effort into it.
along the way. So we at the university have been really excited about this student learning and engagement. We also have a number of classes. Actually, Jack's a student in my entrepreneurial finance class right now. Tim Milano, who's here as one of our guest speakers next week. So we do things curricularly, but we hadn't had a vehicle that really brought a number of these things together and then was looking to deploy capital in a similar way that Mark and Mindy described, or Mark and Mindy, Mandy and Mark described, and sort of supporting our network of great alums. So we kicked off our fund last year. We had a generous donation from the Veale Foundation to get the fund going. And basically they agreed kind of in our demonstration phase to let us put some money to work. We've done 6 deals. 5 have been in alumni founded companies. 1 is in a spin out of the university. I think like the approach that Mandy and Mark are taking, we're joiners into existing deals. We're not setting terms on rounds. And I think a lot of this has come down, I think for all of us as we get into the conversation, is about access. And I think that's been really interesting to see what unique access we can get. Again, whether we're sort of sitting inside the university like Mandy and I are as employees, or outside the university like Mark and Kevin are. So we're out, we just had an article published in Crane's Cleveland Business about 2 weeks ago, kind of telling folks about what we're doing. This may be kind of our first live event where we're sort of telling folks in our community. And I know, Mandy, your efforts are relatively new and Mark's raising money. So I think I'm really excited about that Ohio is kind of stepping up in this area. I mean, I think many of us and many folks watching may have multiple university affiliations. So what has happened, I think, in Ohio is like someone who went to Miami, or someone that went to OSU, or somebody went to Case, like, oh, you know, I saw this at HBS, or I saw this at Kellogg, or I saw something that Stanford was doing. Why aren't we doing this in Ohio? Why aren't we doing this in Miami, Case, or OSU? So I think it's a pretty interesting moment where 3 universities are doing this all sort of in a unique way. And, you know, we've been excited to be doing it here at Case.
Awesome, thank you
Agreed.
so much. I'm so excited. So I'll start us off with a question, but again, at any time, feel free to raise your hand. So Mandy, this is probably best question for you, but like, how do you engage current students at Ohio State so they get involved in the space?
So my program is underneath both the OSU Alumni Association and the Keenan Center for Entrepreneurship, which is really the base for serving students, grad students, postdocs, faculty, and staff in the entrepreneurship realm. My program is kind of looking at how do we, number one, bring alumni into what the Keenan Center is doing, but number two, as you might be a student who has a startup who goes through one of the accelerators or a series of workshops, you might hit a point where you say, I need outside capital. I can no longer rely on Ohio State's grant or my parents' money. Where do I go? The Ohio State Early Investor Network is a very easy transition for that. So student startups are part of that network that can come and pitch to investors. It's also, in a way, a safe place for student startups to have that first pitching experience. Our investors take this incredibly seriously. They will look at you the way they look at any other investment they make, but also they're willing to give feedback and provide some help and education where you may not get funding from them, but you're going to be a stronger company entering out into the market from having gone through the process with them. So while we don't currently, and I have to say this, I started 6 months ago, our network has not officially launched. We've done a soft launch. We are working with investors and companies, but currently don't have any students actively in the program. But the idea is to say, having that outside capital as part of the larger entrepreneurship and venture capital space within a college or a university. It's part of what you need as a student entrepreneur to learn about.
Yeah, sounds good. Thank you. And Mark, I know you sit outside of the
Well,
university, but
That said, we have some important champions, within the administration for us, both in the development office as well as the Tim Holcomb, who leads, it's kind of Michael's peer in some sense. So he's the chair of the Alumni Institute at Miami, which is the entrepreneurship program, which administratively sits in the business school, but they proudly, say they serve majors across the entire school, which they do. So we definitely engage with them, and one part that Tim appreciates is that here, we're reaching out and organizing, institutionalizing an alumni network that he hadn't been able to touch, because we're going at it in a different context, right? So, for example, now we have this relationship with somebody that's at Citadel, which is the largest hedge fund in the world. So that he can, now he's now connected to that person. So that's one thing. And they all want to be, like you said, they said, well, we haven't talked to Miami in 15 years, but they want to, right? So they want to engage. That's one thing. We do support. We do collaborate with the Red Hawk Ventures, which is Miami's student venture fund, and it was launched through a grant, from an alumni grant, and they very active and has grown. So that's pre-seed seed, and we so we'll advise and work with them. We all serve as mentors. They have an accelerator that's a class. I smiled at this, that you have to apply to get in the class. You have to have your own side hustle going before they let you in the class, and then you can develop it. So, but that's a lot of fun. And then there's the Red Hawk Venture Pitch Competition, which is every semester. And then there's other just mentoring things, like we have supported Teresa Sedlak runs their BCIC program. Has teams that compete in that venture capital innovation competition. And so we've advised that occasionally as well. So we're very much, that's part of the mission, is to engage, and support. And we have interns, fully paid interns, that we're on number 7 right now. We have 3 currently working for us, and roughly basically serve as analysts, for the fund. And they fully engage in everything we do. They are part of our weekly partner meeting. They built our back office, using a platform called Coda that we actually have an investment in. And so we do our CRM, we do our deal flow management, we do our due diligence and collaboration across our team using this, and they manage that as well. So there's a lot of different angles in which we engage with the school.
I can jump in, and obviously Regina as our moderator and as someone who's active in the fund, you know, we prioritize and we sit inside the university. So I think out of the gate, putting students kind of right at the center of the due diligence process. I think what's been interesting, and even in the Crane's article, there was some reference to like, I mean, we're new, we're figuring out some of our processes. I mean, I think it's something that probably Mandy and Mark can also appreciate. I think any new fund is sort of figuring out how to best work. I think when you're a joining fund, I mean, we sort of joke as a team that we're trying to be fast and frictionless, and like, it's not so easy to do either. And I think sometimes sitting inside a university, because ultimately, you know, we're gonna miss, if you don't act quick in some of these opportunities where someone may make a small allocation available to an alumni fund, you may miss that opportunity. So I think we work really hard with the student teams, and students are busy. I mean, like, I can think of our students, and Regina obviously being among them, like they're doing a zillion things, and we have some great med students. I know Galen Sheeran-Nance is on right now. We have 4 med students who are really key members of our team. I mean, so much of our deal flow, because we sit in Cleveland, is from healthcare, but they're, you know, they have boards, they've got rotation. So I think we've had to kind of find a rhythm of how do we attract kind of the best and brightest students. And actually, like Mark, we've decided to kind of pay our fellows. We sort of said, hey, let's treat this as a you know, an internship job. And how do we build a pipeline? I think another thing that we've been really interested in, and to date, we've pulled from Weatherhead School of Management, our engineering school, and medicine, but the law school, our nursing school, our school of dental medicine, our Mandel School of Applied Social Sciences, Arts and Sciences. How do we pull folks? Because we know, I saw Prince put a comment in the chat about, you know, a partner at Sequoia coming out of, you know, being a history major. We know that there's some great minds on our respective campuses that may not be finance majors at Weatherhead. There could be Weatherhead students like Regina. So I think, you know, we're a year into it, and we're still, it's a work in progress, but we're really excited to kind of broaden the student lens.
It's funny to that point, of the 4 general partners of 1809 Capital, none of us went to business school. So, but that speaks to venture. I mean, venture, you know, ideas, no disrespect to our business students, you know, but, you know, the scientists, you know, the creatives, the poets, you know, they look to solve a problem, you know, for that they see in the market. And then you got to put a team together, you know, to execute on it. So there are companies founded by business students, but a lot of companies are founded by the science and the digital designers and, you know, so forth. So, so, you know, somehow you evolve into business too. But.
Yeah, and I think that's something that colleges are realizing. I could say Ohio State is that entrepreneurship needs to be part of the curriculum at every single college. Every single major should have the opportunity to learn about entrepreneurship, because you could have a great idea and be like, well, it's not the place for a urban planner to enter.
The beauty of it is it's the most interdisciplinary thing you can do, and you get to do it in a small microcosm, if you will, and see how all the different disciplines interact with each other, which is much harder to do in a large company. So.
And it makes for a better company. You think of a student startup. So you have an idea, and you might have 1 or 2 people, you know, from your major that are helping you come up with this idea. But if you want to build it into a company, you're going to need a graphic designer, maybe, or you're going to need somebody who can write all your copy and do all of that work. You're going to need people from different disciplines. So having an entrepreneurship institute that serves the entire university gives students the chance to find the other partners they need to have a successful enterprise.
Without a doubt.
Yeah, Jack, go ahead.
All right, should I introduce myself?
Yes, please, yeah.
All right, I'm Jack Petito, Master's of Accounting student here at Case, also went here for undergrad, and I'm working with Michael, Regina, Megan, anyways, lots of people on the Alumni Venture Fund here. And so I specifically have a question, Mandy, I think your input would be very valuable on this. As a non-traditional technical founder, what can entrepreneurs and investors do to really create as much value as they can when they don't have that engineering background or the creative background, as you were talking about. What can accountants and finance folk and English majors do to build as much value as
We
they
like
can?
English majors.
Yeah. Some of us go to law school and then become useful.
Well, that's a whole nother discussion on lawyers, but anyways.
I think the most important thing you can do is admit when you don't know how to do something and ask for help. Because that's how you're gonna find the people that will help you make a stronger company. If I'm an English major with a great idea, but I know I need some technical design help, I can either take all the time to learn how to do it and waste a lot of time that I should be doing other things, or I can go out and find somebody who knows how to do that and he either teach me how to do it or I can hire them to do it for me. So that's the most important thing is it's really hard for all of us to say, I don't know how to do something, or I got this wrong. That is one of the most difficult things to do in life. And so being willing to admit when you don't know something or you messed up trying to do it and then ask for help to fix it will make you a stronger founder, make you a stronger entrepreneur, and make your company stronger in the end.
I think, Michael, you might get mad. I think it's, I've always argued that the entrepreneurship program should not be in the business school. I think it should be in the psychology school, to be honest, right? Because what she just described, what Mandy just described is the old cliche is all about the team. The team is critical, and that's how you show value, to a pre-seed investor is that, yeah, you're as one of the founders, you're really smart. You've figured out a problem that should be solved, and there's a big market for it. Great. How do I execute on that? So I need a tech person. I need a business development person. I need I need engineers to be able to start execute on it. And you have to show that you have the combined skill sets enable you to now take the next steps to launch and scale this company. Investors rarely, if ever, invest in one person.
Yeah.
And I suppose there's some rock star where that's the case, but highly unusual. So I think that is so the psychology of how do you share? You think about that, right? It's part of being an entrepreneur is that you're kind of maniacal on going after this because statistically you're crazy to do it, right? Your odds of you're much more likely to fail than succeed. However, it's a passion, and even if you do fail, it's an amazing educational journey to go through. And so sometimes that passion inhibits sharing. But if you have to let go to grow, right? And you won't be able to launch successfully. You won't be able to scale successfully if you're trying to do it by yourself. It just doesn't work that way.
And you'll have investors who may look at your business plan, may look at where you're going to use their capital to grow your business. And they may say, that's the wrong place to put it. And you may be thinking, okay, I need to grow my sales team because you came out of sales. And they're going to say, no, your tech needs to be a lot stronger before you grow that sales team. You have to be willing to hear.
Or
that.
I just want to engineer it forever.
Yeah, the opposite problem is where you're tinkering. It can go to market. It's fine. And yeah, you're the engineer, so you don't see the sales side. So being willing to hear that as well, and then figure out how to solve that problem your investors just posed to you is another really important thing. And you can be an extremely successful entrepreneur on your third company and still have that same problem where your investors are going to find that your focus is skewed.
And then
Yeah.
we have a question in the chat from LinkedIn. Nana, the founder of Micah Specialty Foods, is asking, what is your appetite for investing in non-tech businesses within our entrepreneurial ecosystems? For example, CPG brands, food manufacturing.
Everybody's a tech company today. So yeah. I think I'll jump in real quick. I think, so one kind of bifurcation is if it's a lifestyle business, then that's not a venture. In other words, you might have a great product that you can take to market and you can immediately start generating revenue and it's maybe cash flow positive, and you're making a decision. You're making a growth decision. So if you want to own the company and you want to build your own team and you want to what's called bootstrap it, with, classically, you fund it from revenue. Great. But everybody, the way you go to market today, even with CPG, you're probably gonna go direct to consumer, which means you gotta start incorporating a lot of tech. You gotta figure out, what your online presence is. You gotta figure out how you're gonna attract, customers, and you're gonna figure out how you fulfill those orders, blah, blah, blah. It's all, there's probably, several dozen tech tools that you're gonna use to do that. It really becomes about growth, right? So now if you want to then decide, wait, I want to be a really big company and I want to grow much faster. It doesn't matter if you're a CPG company because you're going to have to use technology tools to grow faster, and you're going to need capital to do that. And so, there's any number of CPG companies that have used venture capital, to get to market faster and grow faster. But the old cliche is once you take a penny from somebody else, it's no longer your business, right? So you got to get over that psychology as well, right? So I think it's not so much that it's not tech. I think, it's how do you utilize technology in order to scale as fast as a venture investor is going to want to see you grow, because that's what's going to drive the return they're looking for. Nothing wrong with staying private, nothing wrong with funding it yourself. That's a very honorable thing to do. You're lacking a kind of a growth path in the market.
But I think to just add to what Mark was saying, it does come to, when you talk to investors, what is their expectation for return? They're always looking to invest X dollars to get Y back. And venture just has a very different scale and return expectation than maybe some angels do or other avenues. And so I think understanding your path will help define who you target as investors. And it's really important to keep that alignment and those expectations.
Agreed.
I think as we, and Nana, thanks for the question. We were sitting next to each other in class last night, and I know him well and know his business. And, I think to Kevin and Mark's point, not every entrepreneur wants to sign up for this very ultimately expensive form of capital where you've got stakeholders that are expecting exit. I mean, I think it's interesting in setting up these three distinct vehicles. I think we're all focused on, the part of the bargain of this sort of venture capital as an asset class is like you're trying to pick these very high growth, big winners. I mean, like Donna, your business may be a great business and sort of succeeding but at a growth trajectory that may not fit this type of capital. I think another thing that we're thinking a lot about, like as a university, and it's a different topic, but like Nana is an underrepresented minority entrepreneur. Like it's awesome to see. Much of the deal flow, we were talking about it earlier. Much of the deal flow that we tend to look at in our markets may be from, venture capital as an asset class and entrepreneurship tends to be a male dominated space. It's changing. Yeah. And I think one of the things that we're thinking about even as a team at Case is like, we're really focused on backing great companies, and how do we get more underrepresented minority entrepreneurs into the portfolio mix? How do we get more female entrepreneurs into the portfolio mix? And there's a number of things that are happening both in sort of Ohio or Northeast Ohio and sort of nationally that are sort of trying to increase that number. But I think that's another interesting question, I think, for all of us as we think about our goals. Returns are at the center of things, but there may be other things that we're looking at.
I think it's important. You have to be intentional, first of all. I think that, but I think there was a young woman last night. I was at Miami launched its version of this building it's called College and Elm last night, and it's innovation center on campus. But one of the companies going to be based there is a woman-led. She's a senior at Miami, but she has a line of skincare products that she's already launched, selling on Amazon. That's targeting people who are suffering from certain medical conditions that affects their hair and their skin and so forth. Brilliant what she's doing, but she's making the decision to take in outside capital, but not just money, but it's people with the experience that can fill the gaps of what she doesn't know. So that's the other important thing. To Kevin's point about when you look to bring in other capital, you're also looking to bring in skill sets, access to market talent that you may not understand how to go get or understand how to acquire, and investors bring that to you as well. So hopefully you're getting the right partners. that can help you, that have the right intent as well to help you scale your business. So I think, that can, but that's a CPG company.
Sure.
But again, solving kind of a unique problem in the market as well.
Any other questions? From Zoom?
Someone besides Jack, a new.
I can keep them coming as
I
long
know,
as
we know it. Some others.
Oh, yeah. Quick question, I guess, for both of you. How have you been able to sort of get like a robust deal flow and, increase the number of high quantity or high quality companies applying to your respective funds? And, given that we're in Ohio, it's not exactly, the epicenter of, venture fundable tech companies. So I was just wondering, what are some of, your strategies for attracting, the best companies?
We're gonna have very different answers, so I will let you go first, because you're a more traditional answer.
Well, yeah, and so we're not, we're not tied to Ohio, first of all, right? So we're looking at deal flow across the country, primarily, and so we've chosen a strategy, so we do get referrals from the university, alums, so we're very closely partnered with the entrepreneurship program, and we've had a number of referrals from them that that are companies being led by Mandy Mallott. So that's one. Our personal networks, we've got a really kind of robust team of general partners, investment committee advisors that are that are located around the country and are active in the venture community, and so that's a second. Primarily, however, we're co-investing with other venture funds around 26 plus of them around the country. So we're not, one of the classic things that you'll see a venture fund speak to is like, oh, we looked at 10,000 and we did 2, right? You'll kind of hear that kind of, we got this really wide funnel and we got to filter them down to where we get 2 that are qualified because we're really smart and we have really stringent criteria, which is a little bit of noise. But however, we're not that because we're partnering with the companies that do that. So we're now, when we see them, they've already gone through that sort of vetting. And so we're looking at 50 to 100 and doing the 1 or 2. But those are pretty qualified deals already. So that's how we're sourcing deals. So, but you said a key word earlier, is that every fund, every platform has to have an interesting access strategy, right? And so maybe that's a good segue to you, right? So,
My access strategy is, well, to put it bluntly, the might and power of the Ohio State machine. So because we are a network and we are not limiting companies based on sector, based on size. I mean, there's some sector limitations because we have the Ohio State name with there, but truly it is very wide open. So any alum that has a company can approach this network. When I go out, I will go on a roadshow around the country, and clubs in different cities will set up events with them to talk to the alumni who live in that city. But again, we're not limited to Ohio, we're worldwide. So you could have a company in Singapore, be an Ohio State alum and approach this network for funding still. Also, I'll eventually be able to turn on the Ohio State marketing machine, which will be helpful as well. But the idea behind the network that we're running is that lots of companies can come here and hopefully pitch to a lot of investors. The other half of that is that while funds cannot join the network, their GPs and LPs may be members of the network, and a company is not going to get all of their funding from the Ohio State Early Investor Network. So that LP may say, hey, I'm going to fund through the Ohio State Investor Network, but also you should talk to my fund because you meet our criteria as well. So we'll build a deal flow for our network, but that will also feed other deal flows around the state of Ohio, around the country, around the world. And really that's a big part of what we're doing, is that it's a system that needs to work together. Yeah, there may be some competition for the coolest new product and company out there, but in general, every company needs support from more than one venture capital, more than one fund. And so we should be willing to help each other and feed each other deal flow ideas, especially if it's something that might not fit our network. We should have a Rolodex of the people that might be able to help them.
I'll just add, because I think the deal flow journey's been interesting. I mean, even just we've been only doing this for a year. mean, some of it is just following up. I mean, we found alums through things like PitchBook, cold emails on LinkedIn, you know, learned about rounds that were forming and closing quickly, which has been interesting. You know, other alums we've sort of cold emailed and, you know, they haven't heard from them. And then, you know, the funding market is a little chilly out there at the moment. So, you know, it's interesting when, you know, maybe there's a moment, you know, because, okay, the 3 of our funds are not, you know, top tier, you know, brand name firms. What we're bringing are different things, but it is interesting. I mean, we've talked about it even as a team where it's like, there's some percentage of our deal flow that truly it's like, it is there's no room in the round, but they'll make room for us because we're part of the Case family, right?
Yeah.
There are there's other opportunities where there really are maybe the entrepreneurs struggling more to kind of put that syndicate together, and like having us in the deal, they believe will really help them. And it could be for things like syndicating sidecar investment, but it's interesting, like kind of what that mix is. I mean, I think the other thing that's been just on the due diligence side of things, like, and this is where, I mean, Kevin wears like multiple hats here today with 1809 and Jumpstart, like finding trusted partners that are also doing deals who are willing to share in their diligence. And, you know, I think folks, for anybody that's sort of been in this industry, you have to build trust. Like if, because there may be things in a Jumpstart due diligence packet that may be negative about a company. So we have to build the trust of our co-investment partners like a Jumpstart, that they know we're going to keep this sort of between us on our student team. And so I think building some of those relationships and then being top of mind with other, and I know this is sort of your bread and butter, Mark, which says it is your co-investor partners that are sending you deals, but people to think about this is like, oh yeah, we know you guys do Case alumni deals. Have you thought about this one? So we're starting to see that happen right now.
I think the alumni thing is important because we got to sell, you know, even though we can see deals, we have to sell ourselves into an allocation in a round. Like you're saying, I think we've only had one, we couldn't do that because it was a really top tier entity and they said, no, we take it all, you know, and so they wouldn't let us in. But the alumni network is part of the sales pitch, right? Because, you know, once we're in, now here's this network that you can leverage to, you know, for in any given capacity for talent, access, you know, market knowledge, functional knowledge that, you know, is augments the resources that the management team has access to. And that's been part of our sales pitch.
Yeah, and we've had, I was gonna say, we have investors in our network that have invested in other companies that are like, hey, they may not be seeking funding right now, but you know, I'm gonna get you that in because I want them to talk to this network. I think it's important. And so this is like the most important thing as students you can learn how to do is network and just build good relationships. And even if it's not a close relationship, have it be somebody who can be like, hey, I met you at this conference, or we both went to Case Western. I want to talk to you about something, because everything in life is networking. Everything in life is being able to call upon some relationship you have, even if it's just very tangential, to get you an answer or even just ask a question of somebody. And that's it. It's an annoying skill to have to grow, but it will serve you throughout your life and really make anything you work in more successful because you are a good networker.
And I think you can take it a step further. I think one of the lessons I've learned over time in working in venture is it is all about relationships. It's relationships with the team. It's relationship with the co-investors. And I think, you know, a lot of these opportunities are built because of the people. There's a lot of examples of average tech that become very successful because they have great teams. And the converse is true, great tech that don't pan out because of poor teams. And I think we have to spend a lot of time just developing those relationships because that's what gets you access.
Cool. And then we have a question on the Zoom. Will, I'm gonna pick on you if you don't mind unmuting, introducing yourself and asking your question.
Yeah, can you hear me okay? Awesome. Sorry I couldn't be there in person today. My name is Will. I'm also one of the students on the alumni team working with Michael and others, and then also in Michael's entrepreneurial finance class. So I was curious, Mark, if you could talk a little bit about what the diligence process looks like for your fund, and kind of from referral to investment, and kind of specifically what role students play as we're trying to figure that out kind of for ourselves.
Sure, we put, I'll say it's a pretty classic diligence process. I'm thinking of with my other venture fund hat on. However, we put as much discipline into it as we can. And I mentioned, you heard me mention this, I mean, we have this platform that we utilize called Coda that is a kind of reimagining what a doc is, right? So it kind of incorporates text and spreadsheet and presentation all in one platform. So we utilize that because it also enables collaboration amongst the general partnership team through the diligence process. But when something comes in, we have our criteria that we've represented to our limited partners that we're going to utilize in selecting investment opportunities. So we can pretty quickly determine if something has a chance to make, to be qualified investment opportunity. And then part of the way we validate that is we score them. We have our criteria, and we have a scoring document, spreadsheet that there's like 6 different elements to it that we rate the company based on, we try to keep ourselves honest, right? Because it's easy to fall in love with a deal. You can rationalize anything, but you got to step back and say, where does this still meet our criteria? And so we first do that. We then, the next step is, once that happens, we have a conversation, we look at whatever material they've been able to send us. We do an executive summary and summarize it, and start to think about where this company's going. So we have an executive summary that's documented, and that can share it amongst the team. If that remains compelling, then we do our own validation diligence, because we're getting a lot of diligence from the partners we're investing in. But I'll use an absurd example. Last year, everybody, the whole FTX thing, massive investors just went right over the cliff with everybody else, right? Because wow, if Sequoia's invested, then we'll write a check too. Well, that wasn't such a great thing, because there was some really fundamental, diligence that could have been done that they weren't managing that very well.
You have to see Theranos as another example.
Theranos is another example, right? So we do validate, so in that sense, we talk to the management team, we talk to the investors and understand what their thesis is. We get access to the data room and get access to all their pro forma financials and historical financials and other material that's in there. And then we put together an investment memo, that completely documents the opportunity in terms of what the risks are, what the opportunities are, and one key part of this is the scenario analysis of what's the potential return opportunity for this based on what we know. And then, that's the whole diligence set that goes to the investment, the partners have to vote on it, and then it goes to the investment committee and they have to vote on it. So I don't know if that answers your question, but it's a pretty, kind of a stair-step diligence process that we go through.
I think the interesting part, I think, Michael, you touched on it, sort of this frictionless, fast. I think the interesting balance we've had is that's what we sort of articulated to our LPs, right? We are investing alongside other highly reputable, experienced firms, top tier firms, where we're getting a small allocation in larger deals. So we're going to rely on that diligence. Well, we've also, as Mark said, created an investment committee. We have the whole structure. So by nature, they have lots of questions and expect that we are doing the type of diligence so that we aren't being sloppy and we can answer. So I think the biggest learning we've had as we've started is that threshold for diligence, hasn't simplified. And so we're trying to make sure that we can answer all the questions, that we are being responsible to our thesis and being able to address the questions, even though we are relying on these top tier firms that have already done that diligence, and we're sort of getting these little allocations.
The speed is enabled though, because the models have been done, and then we get to evaluate the models, as opposed to a lot of lead investment firms. They have to develop their own models. Right. So we understand the model.
And are you typically getting access to partners, due diligence, like to some of the venture? I mean,
100% no, but we have.
Yeah.
So I can think, in most of our opportunities, the lead investors shared least some portion of
Right.
their investment memo with us.
I mean, that's another piece. I mean, and actually it was one of our students that sort of came up with, because we've got a number of alumni advisors, some of them were on the call today, who've been incredibly helpful. There's questions that get raised, whether it's an investment committee or sort of an alumni advisory group. So we now have an opportunity, we asked for a half an hour of a founder's time at the very end to sort of meet with anybody that sort of wants to join, to just try to tick off, because we were finding, even as part of our own internal processes, like there'd be questions that come up, and you know, I find this joining as, what's that?
Keep going.
I find this joint, you know, like to come, I mean, you want to be fast and frictionless, you want to be a great partner, but finding that right amount, what the right amount of due diligence to do to basically satisfy
And sort of
that we're
trust and
making a
verify.
good idea, but also like, we're gonna get close. We've missed a couple of deals just because they were closing quickly. We just couldn't do it fast.
You know, I think Will, to add to your point, I think it's important just in terms that any platform, whether it's deal by deal, whether it's an actual fund, whether, you know, the approach, Michael, that you're taking, you have to maintain discipline, because and you need to document everything you've done and have that in place, because invariably, you know, well, just in definition, more are going to fail than win. But you need to show that you did your process, and you did everything you could to understand what the opportunity is and what the risks were. And so you didn't just follow people over a cliff. You did your work. And so, because invariably somebody's going to come back and question, and you have to have that audit trail in place. I would think it's just super important that you do. So, and it also keeps you honest, right? You know, because again, you know, every deal has a lead to it, like somebody sourced it, so they're going to lead, you know, and the lead magically transforms from cynic to champion. So at some point in that process, you've got to convince your partners to become champions as well, and they're going to be really tough cynics. So that's why you got to do this process to get them to come to the conclusion that what you believe is actually something that's worth investing in. So.
And then real quick, Ernie Knight on Zoom is asking what 1809's
Hi,
fund
Ernie.
size and target check size is.
Hey, Ernie.
Ernie, how you doing?
Case alone.
Doing all right, Mark. Hi, Kevin. Hi, everybody else. Hey, Bob, everybody.
So I'm sorry. So target check size. So we do between 250 and 500K in an initial investment, and can do as much as $1 million all in a company, and looking to build a portfolio of about 15 companies in this fund.
And then last question.
Well, wait, what was, I didn't catch, what was the fund size?
10 million, sorry.
10 million? Okay, thank you.
And this will probably be our last question, but I'm kind of curious. We've heard about the importance of co-investors and academic institutions, but what other like partnerships and resources can we leverage within Ohio to kind of increase the startup ecosystem?
Wow. Michael, you want to go?
Dude, that's a doozy last question for Dan. You know, actually, it's funny, like, even sessions like today, I think show there, I mean, there is a real camaraderie around the state. I mean, we're lucky in that at the state level, programs like the Third Frontier, programs like Jobs Ohio, which touch a lot of the respective work in the ecosystem, are here. We have, you know, a generous donor community. I mean, you know, donors like the Veale Foundation or Brittany Morgan Foundation or others that sort of put in place a lot of the scaffolding. But some of it, I think, like to Mandy's point, like it's about networking relationships. I mean, like we met relatively, I mean, you're new in this role, and like, oh, you're a Case alum, like come back up. So, I mean, I think the last piece, and it speaks to, and we love having all of our friends on Zoom as well, but like getting back in person is hard, right? So, I mean, Kevin and I have been on many phone calls over the last 3 years, and in person very few times.
Yeah.
It's just like,
Yeah, there's an element to it.
it's, so I think getting, and you know, I know Mark, you were down at Miami last night. I mean, we're taking a trip down to Ohio State. So I think a little bit more, there's some great things in our community, in our state, but probably a little bit more in person if
One
possible.
of the areas that sort of spending a lot of time is trying to expand our relationships outside the state. I think we have a pretty robust ecosystem and connectivity, given the third frontier, and you've got Rev One and Cincy Tech and Jumpstart, and we've got all these groups connected. But at some point, we've got to access talent, capital outside the region. There is just not enough capital, talent inside a region just to say we're gonna support our own ecosystem that way. And somehow we have to be better about building relationships and networks all the way to the coasts, getting access. Again, it comes down to access and relationships.
I do think from a student program perspective, there are resources that you can leverage. I mean, you should engage with Jumpstart. You should say, but when you go, you say, look, we're a pre-seed investor. You gotta state what you are. We're a pre-seed, we're a seed investor, and here's our criteria for, for making investment, and here's how the size investment we can make. And you should make sure that Jumpstart's aware of that, because there are pre-seed opportunities that they would potentially include you in. You can do the same thing and then there's the accelerator incubation centers, whether it's Bounce, whether it's Lorain County Community College, YBI, et cetera. Those are formalized resources that I think would welcome the opportunity to engage with students, as well as potentially include you in opportunities as well. So as far as Northeast Ohio, there's some interesting places that you should definitely have in your network that you're communicating with on a regular basis. And then there's the networking as well, that should be done. But there's some, and I think that on the reverse side, that's educational in itself for the students to go down and learn more about Jumpstart and YBI and Lorain County Community College, et cetera, and Bounce, and see how they're working and seeing what's being developed there.
And I come from an economic development background, the Jobs Ohio world and tree of organizations. And so I think it's very similar to thinking about building out a successful economy for a city or a state, is that you need to we want to be robust within our state, but we also want to become attractive to those outside of it. And so if we could show that we have an ecosystem where we're all willing, and I look at One Columbus as a great example of this. You have an ecosystem in Central Ohio where everybody's working together and willing to talk with each other and help each other, for the most part, to grow Central Ohio in general. That makes Central Ohio attractive to an Intel, makes Central Ohio attractive to many, many companies that come and say, all right, you're an easy place for us to work in, you're an easy ecosystem for us to work in. But also look at all the resources Ohio State has. How many universities do we have across the country or across the state? How many graduates do we have who are in all the different areas that companies need to hire? Part of that is keeping students like you guys, when you graduate in Ohio, looking for jobs and wanting to work here, so that startups from outside Ohio, capital funds from outside Ohio say, hey, Ohio's a good place for us to invest and for us to look, because there's talent, there's the resources, there's the support systems there. So it's our responsibility in working in leadership in the venture capital system, especially having these connections to major universities, to say, all right, we got to be successful as a program, but we also need to make sure that Ohio is an attractive place for venture capital to exist and startups to grow.
I think collectively, these programs that are engaging alumni, get them re-engaged back in the state, because they're across the country, across the world,
Absolutely.
is really proven to be an opportunistic thing to do, because they want to.
Awesome. Well, I want to thank all of the panelists. Thank you so much. I think it was an awesome conversation. Very insightful. Thank you to everyone who made it in person and everyone on Zoom. I'll hand it back over to Michael.
Great, thank you, Regina. And thanks, everybody. We have some events coming up next week. We have Kevin Clayton from the Cleveland Cavaliers on Thursday. Check our website for future events and hope to do more on this topic of investing and alumni investing as well. So thank you, Mark and Mandy, for doing it. And thank you, Regina.
Thanks for pulling together.
This was fun. Great. See everybody.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.